watching Gearz.
You know, one question that we get all the time is how do you set up a shop or a garage so you're getting the most out of your workspace? Now, this is important whether you're setting up a shop to tinker in or it's something that you're going to make money out of. And it brings up some other questions. What kind of air compressor do you use? What about your airlines? What about your electrical? What kind of lighting do you need to put in? I mean, the questions go on and on. So today we're going to show you how to build a shop and show you some of the tools and equipment that are out there that you may not know about that will help you get the most out of your shop or garage space.
If you blink, you'll miss me, man.
Now, even though Gearz is a TV show, this is also a working shop. Steady as she goes. And we're subject to the same challenges that any shop faces. Keep going. Namely, you always need more room. So when we got the opportunity to move to a larger facility for less money in a better location, well, we jumped at it. Unfortunately, after the jumping part comes the moving part. And most gearheads would rather have their teeth scraped than move all the junk that they've accumulated over the years. But the good news is, moving can help you set up your new shop exactly how you want it. All right, it goes over there. Now, moving into a new building or a garage can be a little intimidating because you don't know where to put everything. And suddenly the location of your lighting and electrical and air compressor become an issue. That's why your very first step is to lay out a floor plan of where all your major equipment is going to go, what you're going to do as far as construction, and what are you going to do about your air and electrical? Because the more planning that you do here, just like building a car, the less surprises you're going to have in the end. And speaking of surprises, don't forget that with any building project, it is really important to meet with the building inspectors to make sure everything you plan on doing is going to be safe and up to codes. Okay, the first thing to go up was our bend pack 2-post floor lifts in their designated locations. And this is where hiring professional movers that specialize in moving and installing this kind of equipment is a really smart thing to do. Now, since these lifts are anchored in the concrete floor, it's important to make sure your concrete is thick enough to support the lift. For this lift, a 6-inch pad is the thickness that's required to support the lift posts. Lift capacity is another big question, and our main lift is a 12,000-pound unit, which would be more than enough for most shops or garages. However, since our new building has a lot more room, and a lot of our projects are really big, we upgraded our second lift to this bend-packed 18,000-pound unit, so we'll be able to get under trucks or buses or whatever else I might drag in here. Another great tool to have in a shop is the overhead crane to install engines or beds or whatever. And since our particular crane rotates 360 degrees, it was important to put it in a location where it could be used most effectively and not be in the way of other tools or lifts. And just like the floor lifts, it's really important that the post be properly supported and level if you want the crane to work right. Another consideration when laying out a shop is having a clean area to paint in. And since we now have room for a full-size paint booth, we went to Unicure and got one of their downdraft booths to complement the smaller cut-in booth that we already had. Now, once again, getting the booth assembled first was key, since our plan was to build a new shop wall around it, and the guys from Unicure knocked out the booth in just a few days. With the major equipment and the lifts in place, it was time to start on the dividing wall. And since I like the way we built our old shop, we designed this one to look very similar, except this time, the paint booths are going to be built into the wall instead of taking up space inside the shop. Of course, no shop is complete without a place to take a break and relax. So a balcony was constructed as before. And once the paint and wallpaper started to go on, this old empty warehouse began to take on an amazing transformation.
A successful automotive project takes planning and organization, but instead of using an old tablet or notebook, there's the Gearz Project Planning Book. This unique workbook was designed to help you lay out a project, the parts, the tools, and the cost, so you can stay on track. It even has places to attach photos and document your progress to keep you motivated. And if you ever decide to sell the vehicle, it serves as a complete history of what's been done. If you're in the middle of an automotive project or thinking of starting one, the Gearz Project Planning Book is the best way to lay it out and make it happen.
Hey, welcome back to Gearz, where we are involved in the ultimate do-it-yourself project, building your own shop. Now, we know by your emails that a lot of you guys would like to own your own shop or at least expand your workspace. And since we are in the process of moving the Gearz shop to a bigger building, we figure this would be the perfect opportunity to show you how to construct a shop and lay out your tools. This is a mess. Now, once we had all the permanent tools in place, like floor lifts and paint booth, and the new wall constructed, it was time to start adding character and lights. And as before, we wanted this shop to have the feel of an old fire station or an old airplane hangar. So, a brick wallpaper was used as before to add texture. The walls were painted and weathered to look old. And outrigger lights, like we had at the old shop, were built to keep the same look. Hey, check out my wood, man. This is a great way to add light over equipment or workbenches and still keep a cool, rustic feel. You missed a spot. To add to that rustic, vintage feel, numerous other things were added to make the Gearz shop truly unique. That's a big piece of chocolate, boy. We're going to be the only shop with a ballistic missile in it. Now, there's no question how a shop looks is important, but how it functions is even more important. And if you're going to be painting cars, even just sometimes, investing in a side exhaust, downdraft paint booth like this is a wise thing to do. Because not only does it give you plenty of room and lighting, but you also get the benefits of a full downdraft without having to dig a pit underneath the booth because the air flows out the sides, not through the floor. You also have heat for controlling temperature, timers to help in drying times, and enough airflow to dry waterborne paint properly. So if painting is your game, Unicure has got the game plan. Another important aspect of a successful shop is organization. And one of the best ways to do that is with pallet racks or shelves. This way you can keep all of your projects separated and all of your parts organized so you know where to find them when you need them. Remember, the more space you can utilize vertically up the walls, the more space you'll have horizontally across the floor.
When Stacey David makes house calls in the big Gearz Nation truck, it makes for some pretty special moments. But if they can't come to your garage, the next best thing to do is check out the stuff they have online to help you out. Things like DVDs, wiring and build books, apparel and fender covers are just some of the things you'll find to help you with your project or make a great gift for that certain car nut in your life. If you're ready to get out there, build something, and then go smoke the tires on it, StaceyDavid.com can help you do that.
Hey, welcome back to Gearz, where today we're showing that it is possible for you to build your own shop. And to prove that, we took an open warehouse and built it into a state-of-the-art shop. Well, almost. There's a couple things we still need to address. Number one being an air compressor. Now, setting up air in a place like this is a lot different than setting it up in your home garage, because we need something that's going to supply a lot of air and something that's going to give us a solid, consistent pressure. This is what we're going to use. You may have heard of Gearz compressors or seen some of their massive industrial compressors, vacuum pumps, or high-pressure boosters. They're also well known for dryers, air tanks, filters, and virtually anything else that a big factory may need for a compressed air system. But they also do smaller systems that are perfect for your shop. This is called the Gearz Air Tower, and it features a rotary screw compressor with a built-in refrigerated dryer and air tank all in one small package. Now, a screw-style compressor not only delivers more air than the old piston style, but it also uses less power and is extremely quiet as well. And an air tower takes up a lot less room. When it comes to putting quality air in a shop, this is a great way to go. Now, since this place was an old machine shop, you can see that there is a whole network of metal airlines that run all the way through the rafters. And most people would just assume that you could reuse all this stuff and save some money, even though it's a zillion years old. Well, let me show you why that's not the best thing to do. These old lines are full of rust and corrosion and gunk and would wreak havoc on your air tools or paint jobs. So we're not even going to mess with them. Instead, we're going to put in a system of Dan-Am Air hard lines. Take a look at the difference. Dan-Am Air features a smooth-walled aluminum tubing that was designed to flow a ton of air without restriction or turbulence. The fittings are a simple leak-free push-to-connect hookup, so there's no wrenches or soldering needed to assemble the system. Now, in a big area like this, having a large reserve of air is important, so you have plenty when you need it. A way to do that is to add an auxiliary air tank. This way you'll always have air and the compressor won't need to run all the time to keep up. The final challenge to laying out a shop is deciding where you're going to put everything. And a good rule of thumb is to keep similar tools together. For example, notice I have my drilling, cutting, and grinding tools all right here. I also have my racks of steel and metal close by for easy access. And it's also a good idea to keep some sort of a locker close by so you've got your drill bits and your saw blades and other consumables right close at hand when you need them. Another thing, all of these tools take 220 three-phase power. So having them all here in the same vicinity is going to save you some money when you have to hire an electrician to wire everything up. Following the same idea, our tire machines and media blasters are organized in another area that has easy access to the main door, so big tires and equipment don't have to go far to be mounted or worked on. Our metalworking tools and presses are also all together, so they're within easy reach of each other when we have to use different tools to bend or shape metal. The rest of the shop is laid out the same way, with every area having a purpose and a plan, and easy access to air and electrical. And that's really the key to laying out a shop or a garage, no matter how big it is or what your budget may be. If you spend some time planning on how you're going to use it, and then build it and organize it in a way that it can be used, you're going to find that when all that dust settles, it was worth it, because now you can get some serious work done.
If you've got a cool project and would like to show millions of other gearheads what you're working on, you need to join Gearz Nation. This is a free, interactive online community of auto enthusiasts that will allow you to learn from, share with, and encourage others, and at the same time, show off your project. There are also premium memberships available for access to special merchandise and the entire Gearz catalog. If you're into mechanical things, you're welcome on Gearz Nation. And who knows, you might even see your project on TV.
You know, one of the most common problems that a person faces on a project are rusty floors. Of course, worst case scenario, the floors are rotten and full of holes and need to be completely replaced by all new metal. And we've shown you how to replace metal many times. But what if your floors are strong and solid, they're just covered with surface rust? Is it possible to stop that rust so you don't have to replace all that metal in a few years? Well, it is possible. We're going to show you how to do it. Now, the heavy metal truck here is a prime example of what you're going to find under the carpet of most old vehicles. Now, this metal floor may look rough, but it's actually really strong and solid, except for a couple little rust holes here and there that we'll fix later on. The problem is, this floor's still rusting. Right now, as we speak, this thing's still getting worse. And if we don't do something to stop that, in a few years, this floor is going to be gone. So the first step to saving something like this is to scrape it down, get rid of all the loose rust, dirt, and grime that's on it. This is also a good time to remove all the screws and sill plates from the floor. And don't be surprised if you got to deal with some rusty, frozen hardware. Okay, once you have your floors cleaned up, it's time to rust-proof them. We're going to be using this stuff called Chassis Saver Paint from Magnet Paints. This is designed to paint right over existing rust and stop the rusting process. Now, how does it do that? Well, you need three things to have rust. You need metal, you need moisture, and you need air. This stuff permanently seals the metal and keeps any moisture or air from ever getting to it. Without those, you don't have rust ever. Now, that's the good news. The bad news is, if you get this stuff on your clothes or your hands, there's not a solvent in the world that's going to take it off. The only thing that takes that off is time. So make sure that you're wearing some gloves when you use it, and try not to get it all down the can.
Now, Quick Tip. Brought to you by E3 Spark Plugs. Born to burn.
You know, one of the most frustrating things that happens when you paint out of a can is invariably the paint ends up running down the can and getting all over you. That's because when you dip your paintbrush in, you wipe it on the side, and that paint is eventually going to make it out down the side of that can. Well, a simple way to prevent this is to take a rubber band, preferably a thick one, and stretch it over the center of your paint can. Then when you dip your brush in, you just wipe it off on the rubber band. And that keeps all the paint in the center of the can and keeps it out of the sealing ring. This will prevent more messes than you can imagine. If you'd like to learn more tips to make your life easier in the shop, check out the tips page on the website. Now, when you're putting down your rust-proofing paint, it's important that you get a nice thick coat on and you get plenty of paint to flow down in all the cracks and corners, because these are the areas most susceptible to rust. Coating the rest of the floor is pretty straightforward. Just make sure you cover high enough to treat any problem areas. And once you're done, you won't believe you're looking at the same old floor.
What are you working on? Brought to you by Air Raid, American-made quality and performance since 1992.
Today's What Are You Working On comes from James Goebel from Bean Station, Tennessee. And when James was 13 years old, his dad helped him buy a 1930 Model A coupe for $100. Of course, James immediately tore into it and started restoring it original. Of course, a lot of time has passed since then, 48 years to be exact. And as Jim puts it, I built the car original the first time, but after 2 divorces and then tearing it apart and hiding it in 3 different counties, he decided to build it as a street rod. Yeah, probably to get away from those wives, you need something fast. Now check this out. The frame is Brookville. It's got coilovers and a 4-link in the rear. The engine was donated from a '94 Ford Lightning pickup, so it's got fuel injection and plenty of power, and that's backed by a 5-speed from an F-150. Now, of course, over the years, the body's been modified quite a bit, starting with a 3-inch chop. Then the doors and trunk were shaved of handles. Power windows, power door locks were all added. The interior was stuffed with odometer gauges and air conditioning. So now James has a car that he can drive all the time, and as you can see, he drives it all the time. Now, he says after 48 years, he plans to keep this car. After 2 court appearances with the car and surviving both divorces, he's about got it the way he wants it. And we are talking about the car here, right? Not the wives. Maybe he's talking about both. He says the best part is, though, that his father got a chance to ride in this car as it is before he passed away. And James said that that was important because it was his dad that got him started as a gearhead so many years ago. Well, James, because you sent in such a cool project and a cool story, we hooked up with our buddies at Air Raid, and we're going to give you an air intake system for whatever you want. All you have to do is go to their website, pick out the part you want, they'll ship it to you. Also, we're going to set you up with a fire extinguisher for your car and a project build book so you can keep track of all the junk you've done to that car over the years. Also, we're going to hook you up with a year's subscription of Hot Rod Magazine so you can continue to get ideas for that car. Now, for the rest of you guys, if you want to get in on this, you got to go to our website, go to Gearz Nation, and submit your project. We pick all of our What Are You Working Ons right from Gearz Nation. So now you have a reason to get out there and work on something. We'll see you next time.